Hello, everybody. Salut tout le monde. Marc Dumont here. I am your host tonight. The game is over, and the Montreal Canadiens enter the holiday break on a pretty fun note. So we have a lot to talk about. Obviously, that top line is rolling, but how about Josh Anderson? So hot right now. So hot right now. We have a great guest tonight. One of our favorite people on the show. We have Matt. Matt Drake is right here, so he'll be joining us to talk about all things Habs as per usual. And if you haven't had a chance yet, make sure to follow him on Twitter. That's DrakeMT. So we'll throw that in the chat. We'll get going in just one moment. But before all this starts, first of all, I see we have plenty of people in the chat, and we'll make this announcement a little later. But we have something cool that's going to happen with the World Juniors. So Game Over is going to go live after every Team Canada game during the holidays. So you can watch, for everyone that's an Owen Beck fan, you can make sure to tune in there. Owen Beck scored 2 goals in the preliminary game versus Switzerland. Beautiful shorthanded goal. Go check it out. Should be a fun team. Maybe a little less fun without Macklin Celebrini if he has to miss some time. But Game Over will be covering the World Juniors. So join us. It'll be fun. We'll have just a ton of fun. And, we get to have a lot of fun when we're talking about countries. So we can also watch Lane Hudson and Jacob Fowler when they play Canada. So I don't know who you're going to cheer for then, but we will be all over the Game Over coverage for the World Juniors tournament. Before we get going, though, after that announcement, now I have to do my spiel. You got to hit the like button. No, you don't have to, but I really appreciate it. And share, subscribe. We're so close to reaching what is it? It's 100,000 followers. So once that happens, we get to branch out into tons of different things on YouTube. So if you can share the clips, all that fun stuff on social media, I appreciate all of you because you're here every night. And that's why I love you. So I'm counting on you guys to do just even more work, which is unreasonable. But since you're so great, I'm going to push it a little bit. And as per usual, we say, hi, Claire. How's it going? Matt Drake coming in live, Nouveau-Brunswick. How's it going, buddy?
Yes, sir. Good. How are you?
I can't complain. I'll tell you something. I saw the Habs start flat. Like there's 2 Habs teams, right? There's one that comes out just firing on all cylinders, and there's another one that looks like it was cryogenically frozen the night before. You know what I mean? The Habs looked like they were that frozen team today, but that we're starting to see a team that's showing a lot of mettle when they're down, right, Matt? Like that was how many comebacks have they had this year?
Well, that's 2 in a row now, which is pretty impressive. The compete level's there. When they go down, that's when they play their best. It's when they have a 2-goal lead. That stat drove me nuts. It was from Michael Blake McCurdy. If anybody doesn't subscribe to his
Ineffective math
Substack, Ineffective Math on Twitter, yeah, he's got some great charts, and he's got a chart that shows how bad they are when they're down 2 goals. Like they stop playing altogether as soon as they go down, or as soon as they go up 2 goals rather. When they're down, they play great, and I do like that compete level. I think they need to correct that problem that they have when they get a lead. But it's fun to see them make those comebacks. That's 2 in a row, and you touched on something important there. The start. It's like at the start of games, they can't hit the net. It doesn't matter how much possession they have. They could be dominating possession. In this game, I think the Blackhawks in the first 10 minutes maybe had the puck on their sticks for 2.5 minutes tops, and the Habs had 3 shots. And it's, how's that possible? Well, they're getting blocked and they're missing the net. And then I feel like they go into this funk where they start trying to make too many passes and trying to get that perfect shot where you can't miss. And they never find it. And so it leads to a low event start to the game. But I like the way they overcame that and got back into this one. So you got to give them some credit. But yeah, they do need to address that a little bit because the inability to hit the net in the first 10 minutes was, it was something.
Now, the Blackhawks, and this was so important if we go back, there was, first of all, the save by Caden Primo on this play was actually really nice. But then the Blackhawks had a perfect opportunity to score. That save by Jaden Struble might have saved the game for the Montreal Canadiens, didn't it?
Yeah, if he doesn't get back there and recognize that play and getting behind his goaltender, it could have gone a very different way. I was saying in the EOTP Slack chat during the game, like this one might get away from them. We saw, I don't know, last night I was watching the Leafs, and they had a game really get away from them, and they could have been in the same situation like that because you're going into the holidays. These guys can probably smell their vacation. It's not a long vacation, but they've got until the 28th off. You go down 3-0. They might all just pack in and just mail in the rest of the game because I mean, if you're down 3-0, it's tough to come back from that. I mean, two goal lead's the worst lead in hockey. 3 goal lead, yeah, you usually feel pretty safe with that one. So I think that was a huge play and really a good continuation of excellent defensive play from Jaden Struble. He's made some textbook plays. There was one, I think it was Davidson that was coming down on him. I can't remember who it was. Somebody was coming down on the right wing anyways, and he kind of got beat, but he was able to adjust and then get in and put the body on him and ride him into the corner, take the puck and send it the other way. He's been making plays that are well beyond his years, and I think the Laval Rocket, if they're expecting to have him back at any point, they might be sorely disappointed because I don't think he's going back to the AHL anytime soon, if at all.
When I used to cover the Laval Rocket, what you would notice when the players are starting to do well, the nameplates would disappear. Like when they're playing well in the NHL, and if I'm the equipment manager, I think tonight I go and I peel off the Jaden Struble nameplate there because I'm with you, Matt. It's what you pointed out there was so important. This is his 15th game in the NHL, and you could arguably say, I'm not saying he's the best defenseman, but he's probably the most reliable defenseman right now, and that says a lot for a guy who has kept it simple. And what we saw tonight, okay. This is the other part of Jaden Struble's game. He is strong. He could be a very mean man, and we weren't seeing it at first. But now that he's a little more comfortable, I mean, we saw what he was giving up 4 inches to Entwistle and probably 40 pounds and tossed him around. So there's that side of Jaden Struble's game, which is very, very impressive, as well as his physical prowess. When I used to speak to, was it Jim Madigan used to run the Northeastern program. He was a hockey coach, so now he's doing all of the sports. And I asked him, is this guy really as built as people are saying? And he was saying, no, he's a specimen. If you wanted to keep one human being to show everyone else, it would be Jaden Struble, because he's so darn strong. So we're starting to see him become comfortable. We're starting to see him bring out the physical game. I have to say, I am so impressed by Jaden Struble. And I mean, we can get the impressions from the chat, which, by the way, they're going off on your look right now. They're loving it. But I'm with you.
Really?
You can't get him down to the AHL. Okay, yeah. So we're gonna go back because the chat is loving it. So Trizak says, why does Matt look like he's not gonna let me in the club? So you're bouncing on that one. What else do we have here? Mike Fisher says, Matt be like, welcome to the salty splatoon. How tough are ye? Matt, the team won. Please smile before they start to think you're here for the lunch money. That's the thing. Matt is actually one of the nicest guys I know. So the look might be a little scary, but he's very nice. And then Trizak says, you look like you're about to be beat up by Batman at a Gotham shipyard. Which one of those do you oh yeah, and then King of the North, you're gonna hand out suspensions in the chat, Matt Perros. I don't know, man. I don't know which one of those. I think I like the Gotham, you're gonna get beat up by Batman. I'd say that's a good one.
Well, I think Batman probably would take me out. I think I'd have a tough time against him. I'd have a tough time against George Perros too, if we're being completely honest. But I'd probably give it a go at the very least. Somebody said, "Hey, you're gonna fight Batman tonight." I'd at least try it.
Right?
You're not going to say no to that.
I just make sure you know his mom's name, right? As long as you yell out his mom's name, you're good to go. If anyone hasn't seen it, during the Cup run, me and Matt were both working essentially at the Bell Center, and I came out and I go to meet him, and he's standing beside Georges Larac, and he was actually like, they're both sitting there like this, and then I was noticing Matt had bigger arms than Georges Larac. Now, I'm not saying that he could beat up Georges Larac, but he had bigger arms. So if you want to see that, go to his Twitter feed. We're going to move on to the top line because I want to talk about Slafkovsky. But in the third segment, what we're going to do is we're going to ask for Christmas gifts for Habs players. So if you have something you'd like the Habs player to get, like for example, maybe Cole Caulfield to get his shooting luck back, throw that in the chat and we'll discuss that in the third segment. Matt, has Juraj Slafkovsky arrived?
I'm hesitant to say arrived, but I'll tell you what. I think there was, I don't know when it was, but I think there was a day in November, right? And I'm not sure exactly what day it was, but I think he woke up one morning and he went, oh shit, I'm 6'4" and I'm 235 pounds. And that's bigger than most players in the NHL.
Yeah.
Really? And then he went, all right, well, I'm going to play like it. And it's been refreshing. His net front, I tweeted this out earlier, his net front play this year has been miles better than anything he was doing last year. He's winning body position regularly, and it's leading to some greasy goals. Like the
Love
one he
it.
got tonight that's a greasy goal, but they don't ask how, they ask how many. And you know what? If he ends up developing into, say a 30 goal scorer, and a lot of them end up being greasy goals like that, nobody's going to complain. No Habs fan is going to have a negative thing to say about it, because you know what? You need guys like that that can be that physical presence.
You
And
got it.
he is a breath of fresh air on that Caulfield and Suzuki line, because they've tried Josh Anderson there. Josh Anderson's a bigger body that can crash and bang a little bit. And he can forecheck. It hasn't really worked. It's worked in spurts. Josh Anderson ended up with a 2-goal game against the Lightning in the playoffs,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people at that point thought, well, maybe he's the guy to work with those two, and it hasn't worked consistently. They put Slafkovsky there earlier in the season, and it worked a little bit, but then they broke it up, and now they've gone back to it, and now it's been fantastic. I think, who was it? Was it Jay Fresh on Twitter that tweeted it out recently that said they're top 10 in the league for expected goals for? They've been playing fantastic hockey,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a big part of that, because his forechecking has been great. He's turning pucks over, and when he's not turning pucks over, he's getting to the net, getting body position, and just wreaking havoc, making it hard for the goalie to see. And if the puck comes to him, he's very good at locating it and putting it into the net. So has he arrived? Again, big roundabout way to get back to that question. I'm hesitant to say he's arrived, but he's certainly on his way to the destination that people wanted him to get to. And that is, a legitimate big body power forward that can forecheck and that can get goals in those dirty areas. So it's great to see. I think all Habs fans should be excited about what we're getting out of him right now.
I agree 100%. And then we're going to say hello to Randy, who just joined the chat. We have all our favorites are here too, though. We got Kay, we got Trzak, we got Melissa, Frederic is here, Dominique Legault is here. So thank you to everyone that joined the chat. If you can toss us a quick like, that would be appreciated. For everyone that missed it to start the show, we're going to have a game over after every Team Canada game this year. So that's going to be really fun. After Owen Beck climbs his way up the lineup, we're going to be coming to you live for the World Juniors, so that's exciting too. I think the most important thing you mentioned there, Matt, and I love the net front presence, is the forecheck. If we've looked at the last two Nick Suzuki goals, it's been intense forecheck by Slafkovsky. Cole Caulfield's last goal, intense forecheck by Slafkovsky. He's a guy who's kind of finding himself in the NHL, right? And there's still like we can't get too excited. That's why I like that you brought it down a little bit. Still on pace for about 25 points this year. But we're seeing huge steps, huge levels of development where he's gone from just this year to the start of the season looking like maybe this was a bit of a mistake to keep him in the NHL to now it looks like he belongs. So, as we always mention, development isn't linear. I argued for him being in the AHL, but right now that argument is completely thrown aside because you can't justify him ever going back to the AHL if he keeps playing like this. We're talking about 75% control of chances in the last 3 games. That's what you want from your top line. And the most important part is that they're finally scoring, Matt, because just like it's good to have good underlying numbers, but you got to score. So these goals should it rewards Martin St. Louis' trust. And there was something that really, really important that happened. When the Habs were considering sending Slafkovsky to the AHL, Martin St. Louis is the one that came in and said, I want him in the NHL. So the head coach is the one that objected, essentially. And with that, he got promoted to that top line. So it was this close to going the AHL route. But Martin St. Louis kind of stepped in for his player there. And the most important part is not stepping in, it's putting him on that top line. So far we're seeing just from night to night an emergence for Juraj Slafkovsky, and that's just all sorts of encouraging. As Frédéric Ouellet mentions, Slav is getting pucks like I'm getting chicken balls at the Chinese buffet. I'm telling you right now, the ribs are where it's at the Chinese buffet, okay? Like the chicken balls, mediocre. Not so great. What's your favorite Chinese food, Matt? Real quick.
Favorite Chinese food? I haven't had Chinese food in a while,
Me
but
neither.
back in the day, I used to go to the Mandarin a lot in St. Catharines, Ontario. So
Yeah, okay. I used to go to Mandarin
the
Ogilvy.
Mandarin's got to be up there.
I used to go to Mandarin Ogilvy in Ottawa because we
Okay.
knew the owners. I love dim sum personally, but I'm down for any kind of fried rice. Any kind of fried rice is great. Okay, so moving on from Slafkovsky, we're going to stay within that line. I think Nick Suzuki, this is, and I'm going to write about it tomorrow, but I feel like this is him emerging as, I don't want to say elite player, Matt, because I feel like that comes with so much baggage, right? But we're seeing a guy this year that's not only producing, but his underlying numbers are going up there. He's leading the Habs in shot share. He's leading the Habs in expected goals. He's scored his 10th goal tonight. He is one of the leaders in the entire NHL for assists that lead to scoring chances. They don't always capitalize on them, but he's being fantastic in terms of playmaker. What's your read on Nick Suzuki this year?
Yeah, I think elite in terms of intelligence at the very least. Like he's one of the elite, thinkers of the game.
Mm-hmm.
You see him go into board battles sometimes where you think he's behind the play, like you think he's late, or you think he's overmatched, and somehow he comes out with the puck. It doesn't. It sometimes doesn't even make sense. But then when you see the slowed down replays, you can see how he's taking a smarter route to the puck.
He's evaluating before he goes in.
Yeah, he's getting himself in a position where he knows he can get that stick lift in. Maybe he knows he's overmatched and he goes, all right, this guy's bigger than me. So what I'm going to do is instead of just charging in there and putting the body on him, I'm going to come around this side and I'm going to get my stick up under his stick and I'm going to take that puck. And is he elite overall in the NHL right now? I don't think anybody could really make that argument. But again, elite in terms of the way that he thinks the game, and it's gonna lead to more points. Like you said, the fact that he's got the most assists that lead to scoring chances. Eventually, that line right now is playing so well, and we're just now starting to see them get the points to come with it. It's only been in the last couple of games where those points have been coming along. I think the longer that he keeps them together, Martin St. Louis, that is, the longer that he keeps them together and lets them keep developing that chemistry, we're going to see an explosion. And I think it's coming. I think we're on the cusp of it. And we're starting to see the beginning here where they're starting to pile up the points a little bit. It's going to be maybe on the other side of the Christmas break. We might see that explosion come. And that's where towards the end of the season, we might be able to start having that conversation about whether or not he's elite leading into next year, right? Give them another off season, give them a full training camp to work together, and then give them an actual full season where they're all playing together as a unit. And we'll see if Nick Suzuki can really enter that conversation for elite player in the NHL. But I do have to say, I'm loving what I'm seeing from him. I think it's entirely possible we see another career high from him this year, which in this season where they've been relying so heavily on their defense to generate points for them, I think is a huge win for the Habs. He's playing great hockey. Leave them be. Leave that line together, because that's some of the best hockey that we're seeing right now is when those guys are on the ice together.
And you hit the nail on the head to leave them be, because at one point Nick Suzuki, after a game, I think it was after their 6th game together, good underlying numbers again, like, yeah, that's great, but they weren't scoring. And Nick Suzuki specifically mentioned in the interviews, like, I really hope they keep us together. And I've never seen him say that before about a line. So I think he's happy too to not have to drag a couple guys, right? And the other part too is that Cole Caulfield isn't necessarily playing his best hockey either. So there's still room for improvement on that line as well, right? So all in all, I think this is Nick Suzuki's emergence as just I hate to say this because a lot of people will think it's an insult, but he's really like a better version of Saku Koivu. And for those that saw Saku Koivu in his prime, when he was leading the NHL right in scoring, right before he got his knee blown up, he was a very, very good player. So we're seeing Suzuki, drive the play, be very good defensively. And it's kind of what we saw in him a couple of years ago, but those underlying numbers weren't great. Now they're up there. So it's just beyond encouraging for that top line. Yes, Dominique Legault says, would like to see Nick, Doc, and Sean as our top 3 centers. Well, that's the thing, Dominique. I agree. That's fun. Sean Monahan's got to be gone this year. Okay, maybe I'm going to ask you this then, Matt, because I'm still going with the idea that the Habs aren't going to make the playoffs. Do you think it's like realistic? Because I hate to throw some cold water on it, but they're still a bottom 5 team for expected goals. They're really getting floated by good goaltenders. Let's be perfectly honest. They have 3 goaltenders among the top 32 in goals saved above expected. Should we start to just forget that and just enjoy the hockey and say, fuck it, we're going to go for the playoffs right now? Is that the way they should be approaching this?
I think they have to let the chips fall where they may, right? I think they need to play out up until the deadline and see where they're at. If they were, and I'm with you, I don't think they're making the playoffs. If they were in a wild card spot, when the deadline comes, right? They're firmly in a wild card spot. I'm not talking like 5 points out and they're trying to chase their way in.
Yeah.
I'm talking they're firmly in a wild card spot, maybe number one even. Then at that point you could say, all right, let's hang on to a guy like Sean Monahan, right? He's on a super cheap contract.
Oh my God.
It would be extremely valuable to any team that's trying to go for it and win a cup this season.
So versatile.
I can't think of a contending team that wouldn't be able to use a Sean Monahan.
Not the Leafs.
Play the wing, you can play center.
Did you hear on the Maple Leaf hot stove or whatever it was? They were debating between Domi and Monahan, and they're like, no, Monahan can't play. We want Max Domi. Sean Monahan has the same amount of shorthanded goals as Max Domi has goals this year. So, but apparently the Leafs can't use him.
Well, there are some Leafs fans that tend to overrate their players just a tad. Sean Monahan is significantly better than Max Domi.
Yeah, like it's.
If you gave me a choice, and Max Domi had a fun time, he was a fun player to watch.
He was really good when he played for the Habs. I'm very good.
I'm taking Sean Monahan every day and twice on Sundays. Okay. They would actually be a very good team for him to land with because they could use a little bit more defensive responsibility, and he brings that. But to think the Habs are going to make the playoffs is kind of wild to me. I think they've got a very uphill battle. They're only a couple of points, or I think maybe this win might have put them past Detroit.
Well, I'm looking right now. They're 1 point behind Detroit, and Carolina's the last one.
Okay.
Carolina has 38 points in the same amount of games. The Habs have 35 points. So they're essentially 3 points back of the Capitals and the Hurricanes.
Yeah, and all of those teams have more firepower, so it's hard to see them keeping
Pittsburgh's
pace with
there.
those teams.
The Devils are there below them. Yeah, Sabres. Sabres have to be good eventually, right? Like
they should.
The Sens have to be good eventually. Maybe
the Sabres were sure pretty. They were pretty good last night, weren't they? They beat somebody in 9-3.
Oh, so they converted the 2-point conversion, and they got a rouge after because we're playing with CFL.
That's right.
Here. Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, the Habs in the playoffs. Honestly, I'm a Habs fan. I bleed bleu, blanc, and rouge. Have my entire life. I would love nothing more than to see them in the playoffs. I don't care if they're underdogs. We saw what happened before when they made the playoffs when they were underdogs they had good goaltending.
Fun, man.
Anything can happen. It's fun, and it's a different level of the sport that we love. But we got to be realistic. This team is still rebuilding. They're probably looking at moving some of these guys, and I don't think, unless they're firmly in a playoff spot when the deadline rolls around, that they're going to avoid making some of these trades. I think Sean Monahan is a clear candidate. He kind of has to go, and that's nothing against him. It's just because he's going to get you a good return if he's healthy and he's doing what he's doing right now, because he's cheap and there's no second year to that contract. I also think David Savard is playing his way into that conversation as well, because he's got championship experience. He comes at a pretty reasonable price tag. He does have another year left on his deal, but the cap's going to jump next year. And by the time the deadline rolls around, his cap hit's going to be negligible. So that team, whoever wants to get a guy like David Savard on their roster, they're not going to have to worry too much about it, because it's going to be a negligible cap hit for this year. And then next year, it's going to jump. So you've got time to figure that situation out. So I think he might be gone as well. And I think a goaltender is gone. Personally, if I had my pick, I'd say send Jake Allen first. I'd like to kind of hang on to Samuel Montembeault and see, how that shakes out, because he's still pretty young for a goaltender. There's a possibility that he could be a guy to take over that net permanently. But yeah, I don't see them making the playoffs. I see them making some trades. I think it's a question of when, not if.
I just want to point out to Trizak, I'm not the one that traded David Savard. Matt traded David Savard, okay? I'm just going to make this clear, because I'm the one that always trades the players. I will say this for David Savard, because we've been really harsh about him. And listen, I'm a slave to the numbers, right? Like, I can't look at numbers and just ignore them if they're terrible because I like a player. But David Savard's numbers have never been great. Now, right now, since he's returned to play, he's controlling over half the shots, half the expected goals. That is fantastic. He scored in back-to-back games. The most important thing to me with Savard's return has been removing Lindstrom from the lineup, and no offense to Lindstrom, but there's no way he should have been on the top pairing. Mike Matheson, his play has skyrocketed since David Savard has come. So if you're a GM looking to shore up your defense, they always look for guys like Savard. And when you talk about the cap going up, it's not just that. Some teams are saying that they want a little bit of security in terms of, they don't want to have a pure rental. They want to have a guy that maybe wants to stick around for an extra year. I know that a couple teams have inquired specifically for players, not necessarily with the Habs, but that have another year left. So, if you're going to pay a lot at the deadline, some teams want 2 kicks at the can, and that might be what's happening. Might happen with David Savard. Now, Trezak, I've traded David Savard. Earlier, I didn't. And I'm with you on Jake Allen, but I'm wondering if you can get a better return from Caden Primo. And if that's the case, Matt, like, it has to be significant. But if that's the case, if we're talking about like a 2nd round pick versus a 5th round pick, I don't hesitate to move Caden Primo. And I understand that probably is not the most popular move, but we also have to be realistic. Like, he's played better this year. He's still like a career 880 guy. Now that's harsh because he hasn't gotten the best. Like, away this year, he's been excellent. At home, he's been terrible. I just don't see the need to hold on to another goalie with potential at this point. But if you're going to be selling a guy like Monahan, if you're going to be selling a guy like Savard, then maybe you do take that time to kind of recoup. And Montembeault is not a guarantee to be dominant next year either. So, yeah, it'll be interesting how they approach this. Now, for those that don't know, Carolina Hurricanes called about Jake Allen, and the Edmonton Oilers called about Jake Allen, and the New Jersey Devils called about Jake Allen. So I was actually expecting there to be a move before the holiday freeze. All rosters are locked in until the 28th. There will be no deals, no trades, no waivers. That's just they instilled that so that players have like a modicum of stability during the holidays. And I thought there'd be a move beforehand, but it's really the goalie market is heating up. The issue is that it never heats up enough to get a big return. So I'm really hoping the Habs move on fairly soon, but it does seem, and I criticize him for it, so I'm going to have to eat some crow here. It does seem like Kent Hughes played his cards right by keeping 3 goalies in the lineup. Again, I don't know how much, if it'll be worth it down the road, but I will admit, and I do this a lot, but I'll admit I was wrong when criticizing the original 3 goalie setup. King of the North says Holtz for Jake Allen. Yeah, sure. Done. Absolutely done.
Done deal.
King of the North says, I think moving on from Primo is a big mistake for a 5th round pick. Yeah. We agree with that.
For a 5th round pick, yeah.
That's nothing.
If it was a 2nd or a 1st, sure, I'm on board. I don't know if anybody's offering that. He just doesn't have enough activity to warrant a 1st.
No goalie.
Yeah, he's not getting a 1st. I think he'd be lucky to get a 2nd. And I'd probably take a 2nd, but a 5th, no.
So no, you know what? You hold firm, and as Marc Cheknida says, Hughes has set his price and has no reason to panic right now. Well, that, and I don't know for sure, but is the way that Hughes operates. He doesn't ever stress out. He'll hold on to his guys forever. And I think last year kind of backfired with some of the veterans, but it seems right now like there might be a taker on Primo. And Jakub Dobeš is playing better in Laval. They just signed, I forget his name, but he played for the Marlies last year, so they have another backup in Laval. So it's not yes, well, there you go. So it's not as crucial right now to get a goalie into Laval. It seems like the guy who was hired to do this job might know what he's doing. I'm just, I will admit I was wrong on that one.
My good buddy Jared Book. You're
Jared.
Good buddies with Jared Book as well. We were doing our podcast together. He had one of the best takes on it. And he said, you know what? If you're trying to figure out what goalie you should trade, it's whatever one gives you the best return. You went out in the draft and you drafted 3 or 4 of them. You got a handful of goaltenders coming up through the ranks. You trade whoever is going to get you the best return. So work the phones and figure out who's got the best return for you, because not only do you have Jakub Dobeš, you got Jacob Fowler, who we're going to be seeing at the World Juniors pretty soon.
He looks so
You've
good.
got Quentin Miller, who's been fantastic in the QMJHL.
He just got traded to
Rimouski, to Rimouski, which is a much better team than he was on. The Rempart, they're in their Memorial Cup hangover period where they kind of went all out. They won it. Patrick Roy decided I'm done with coaching, and they're having a rough season, and now he gets to go to a much better team, and he was already very good on a bad team. What's he going to look like when he's got a better defense in front of him? I think he's going to look fantastic. So there's 2 potential options for you right there. Jakub Dobeš, as you mentioned, playing a little bit better in Laval. There's options coming up through the ranks. I don't think that he needs to play it too close to the chest here. I think he should really, like I said, and like Jared said, figure out who gets you the best return and then make that trade.
Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah, just go from there, and no rush, as absolutely as everyone has said there. I think really Hughes played his cards pretty right, but I was worried because the goalie market is almost always dead. But then you had a bunch of injuries pop up, stuff like Frederick Anderson, kind of a freak injury there as well. So Phoenix Copley,
Yeah.
and so yeah, it seems to go well now. Bernardo Sunier was saying, "Oh, so now you have to admit you're wrong on Josh Anderson." Here's what I will say, because we have to give credit where credit is due. Now, I'm not going to talk about his underlying numbers. I don't care about that right now. Do you know that Josh Anderson has 4 5-on-5 goals this year, this month? And until Juraj Slavkovsky and David Savard scored, he was the only guy that had more than 1 5-on-5 goal this year. So right now, or this month, so we have Josh Anderson has 4 5-on-5 goals, which I guess that empty netter was 5-on-5. I don't remember. Maybe they had a penalty, but anyways. And then you have Juraj Slavkovsky with 2, David Savard with 2, and about 10 other guys with 1. So right now, Josh Anderson is the hottest Montreal Canadiens goal scorer. How's that for a stat?
Uh, I mean, yeah, I think it's great. I wonder, and I've been thinking about this for a few days now. Like, is there any chance of reviving his trade value that he apparently had last year? That had people calling in and trying to throw first round picks at Kent Hughes, and he was saying no to it. I wonder if this has an effect. I mean, he scored a good goal tonight, right? Just a smart center lane drive, just went to the net. Got a beautiful feed from Sean Monahan. He owes Sean Monahan a couple of beers for that one. But he's been playing better hockey, and I think with any player, sometimes if you get into a funk, you get one goal and then all of a sudden things start rolling the right way for you. And I think that kind of happened for him, because it's not like he was playing absolutely terrible hockey all season.
No.
He wasn't playing good. I'm not trying to be on the Josh Anderson booster club here, but
he was playing bad.
He got okay. You're gonna say it
statistically had the worst possession numbers in the entire NHL. I mean, there's no other way of. But it's been so much better.
He was killing every line that he got put on. Was the big issue for the Habs, right? That you put him on that line, and then every time he drives into the offensive zone, and he would take a really low percentage shot instead of looking for any kind of pass.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, if we're going to be rude to Josh Anderson, I might as well mention there was a point in the first period where he got into the offensive zone, he cut into the middle and threw a weak, super soft backhander on net. If he passed to either one of his line mates, that would have been a goal.
But hey, he's scoring now, so we're gonna.
That's the thing, right? And again, they don't ask how, they ask how many. And right now, he's getting many. And I wonder, is that going to make a difference in terms of his trade value? Because
absolutely,
he has that profile of a player that gets GMs out of bed. He's got size, and he can skate fast, and he shoots the puck hard. And as much as hockey has moved towards analytics and stuff, there are still those dinosaurs that go, ooh, you tell me he's 6'3"?
I guarantee you there's a bunch.
You're telling me how many times does he go over 20 miles per hour? A lot.
Like the third most in the NHL, actually.
Give me that guy.
Yeah.
Third most in the NHL. So, I mean, those are the kind of things that get those GMs out of bed, and we know those GMs exist, and we know that Kent Hughes is smart enough to take advantage of those GMs. So I wonder if this production, if he can maintain some semblance of this production towards the deadline, can they maybe recapture some of that value?
I think so. I think
realistically, they probably should have made that trade last year.
Yes, and that's what Bernardo was actually talking about when I went in on that. He was talking about how missed opportunity last year. But Matt, I'm with you. This is a guy that takes a long time to lose his value or his perceived value, and will quickly gain it back. So now here's the other part, is that Ken Hughes really, really likes him, but we're not going to move him out after 4 goals. We're going to let him score a few more, but it's another option for Ken Hughes moving forward. Tav mentions Jets look good. If you just joined us from the Jets feed, they beat the Bruins 5-1. The Jets might be, and we're talking about, there's 2 teams in the West right now that are playing pretty darn well. And obviously the Jets, people aren't that surprised with it, but the Jets and the Jets and the Canucks are both first in their division right now in the West, and I love that. Now I know a bunch of people are saying, hey, it's going to fall to the ground, like especially the Canucks But man, I love it. And you know what else I love, Matt? Gabe Vilardi is outscoring Pierre Dubois like 4-1 right now. That might be. There's what was it's if anyone's 100 years old like me and watched the old game, what was it, End Game? It's basically like they're playing war games, and they ask the computer, in a nuclear setting, what do you do? And the computer essentially says the only winning play is not to play. The only winning move is not to play, and that's what Kent Hughes did in this one. Offered a little bit, but he wasn't going to move off of it. And I think that non-move, just like we criticized the non-Anderson move, the non-move for Pierre-Luc Dubois was a godsend. That was probably Hughes' best move, was not making a move, in my opinion.
Yeah, because Dubois was not going to give them much of a hometown discount. If he gave one at all, it wasn't going to be a whole lot. And you look at his production right now. By the way, you need to take into context, he's on a very good team and he can't produce. Good team. Yeah. Right? What if he was on the Habs? if even if you take his exact stat line, take his exact stat line that he has right now on a good team and say he produces exactly that with the Montreal Canadiens. Are any of us happy with that player on this roster at that AAV? Absolutely not.
What is it again? It's like 9.5 or something? 9.5 or what's his?
Is it 9.5? I think it's 9.5.
Is it? It's either 8 or right now he's got 5 goals and 7 assists, which is okay. He's essentially on pace for about 28 points. So he's on pace for slightly more points than
8.5.
8.5. He's on pace for slightly more points than Juraj Slafkovsky this year, like slightly. And Slafkovsky played. Well, no, we're not going to talk about the winger that was sinking him at the beginning of the year because he had a good game. Either way, that was just a great non-move by Kent Hughes. And it worried me a little bit when they were really going after him. And I heard they were really interested. They even made another deal. But turns out that the offer by Kent Hughes was never that sexy, so to put it. So great work by Kent Hughes avoiding that. Ian Patterson mentions here, so Stevens' play could make Monahan expendable. Like I don't think Mitchell Stevens has a huge future with the Habs, but here's what I will say, Ian. I loved seeing Mitchell Stevens score, and again, maybe it's my background for spending so much time in Laval with a lot of the AHL guys, but he's a guy that shows up every damn day. He works really hard for the Laval Rocket. He's a coach's dream. He was playing first line center at one point this year. He'll play up and down the lineup, power play, penalty. Like he's one of those almost Alex Belzil types in the AHL, and I will always have respect for them because keep in mind they're making 60-70 grand a year just to have a shot. Mitchell Stevens is going to make more this month than he made probably in the last 3 years in the AHL. Okay, just from having NHL money. So yeah, honestly, it's really pretty darn exciting for him to score that goal, right? Like it's just a fantastic reward for a guy that plays very, very well in Laval. And I know I get mushy about this stuff, but I'm just a big fan of seeing him score that goal.
A good goal too. You win the face-off, go straight to the net, wait for the play to develop, and then get a tip on it. I mean, that's textbook hockey. Yeah, it was a really good play.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, a guy that just gets rewarded. Like Merry Christmas, right? Your first goal at the Habs, he's got to be feeling good. Okay, so we're gonna get to the third segment in just one moment. If you have a chance, if everyone could like the chat, I would appreciate it. Subscribe, all that fun stuff. We love speaking with everyone in the chat. We got Ian here. We got Bernardo here. We got Kay. We got King of the North always here. Big wrestling fan as well. King of the North mentions this is his best move. Kent was Kulak for Lane Hudson. Yes. Now, we actually have to thank the Maple Leafs for Lane Hudson, believe it or not. If we go back, when they traded Matt Taormina and Rinat Valiev for, who was it? Who did they get? No, they got Rinat Valiev, and then they switched Rinat Valiev for, who was it? They got him from Calgary, then he sent them back. Anyways, long story short, it was originally Leafs trade that turned into a Calgary trade that turned into a Oilers trade that eventually got them Hudson. So 3 Canadian teams helped the Habs draft Lane Hudson. Not bad at all. Marc, can you say Jake Evans played well for my sake as a holiday present? Okay, well then let's go see if he... No, I'm not going to go see his stats. I ignore Jake Evans' stats at all time. Here's what I will say. He's a guy that... Have you noticed that he scored in his first game that he didn't score like for 30 games and no one said anything? That's because everyone knows Jake Evans is just one of those stalwart players. He's just honest yeoman effort every night. We saw him play really well today for a couple seconds on that second line. Played really well. But I'm going to move off from Jake Evans, and I'm going to talk about Jesse Ylönen's 4.6 seconds on the top line. How did you think he looked for those 4 seconds that he was on the top line?
Ooh.
He had an assist on that goal.
A bit rough.
I don't know, man. Yeah, you didn't like the first 2 seconds. I thought the first 2 seconds were not great.
Well, according to Natural Stat Trick, he had 51 seconds.
Oh.
And the statistic, I pulled it up because you were talking about Jake Evans, so I was like, oh, let's see what were Jake Evans' stats.
Yeah.
So he had 51 seconds, and they got in almost a minute. They kind of got run over, but what did they do?
They scored a goal.
They did score a goal, did they not?
Immediately.
So, again, they don't ask how, they ask how many, and that they were able to put the puck in the net. So I think on one hand, it worked. On the other hand, I think they've got their top line figured out. Yeah. The one thing that does bug me with Ylönen is I wish they would give him more opportunities to get a little bit more creative offensively. Like having him on the fourth line is kind of silly. He's not a fourth line player.
Yeah, same thing with Heineman, right? It's like it's a roster construction thing, but I'm with you. Yeah, it's not great.
That's what I said before the game. I said, listen, take Yoel Armia down to the fourth line, right? This is a guy you already put on waivers once. You've already made it quite clear that he's not part of the future of this team, but you're stuck with him because nobody wants to take that contract. So either move Heineman up onto that third line and bring Armia down to the fourth, or move Ylönen up to that third line and bring Armia down to the fourth. One way or another, bring Armia down to the fourth. And then what really bothered me was when Cole Caulfield missed a little bit of time in the second period there, they sent Armia up to the top line on the power play. They put him on the first unit. It's like, what are you doing? Give that opportunity to Jesse Ylönen. He has a very good shot.
Might be the second best on the team, actually.
It might be the second best on the team. And behind who? Behind Cole Caulfield. And Cole Caulfield has been struggling to find opportunities in the power play because everybody knows that he's going to shoot. Yeah. So as soon as that top unit goes out, everybody's just keying on him. They're just staying in his lane, and they're staying tight on not tight enough where he can actually exploit anything, but tight enough to stop him from actually taking some of the looks that might be available to him. I think if they gave another shot to that unit like Jesse Ylönen, it might make a difference. It might open up some opportunities for Caulfield. But of course, they're sending out Armia. I do love Martin St. Louis as a coach. I've liked what he's brought. I've liked the style of play that they're playing. Has been a breath of fresh air to what we've seen in previous years.
Yeah.
But that was one decision that really irked me. It's like we're giving an opportunity to a guy who has not done anything to deserve it. I thought he played a pretty brutal game. I thought that penalty that he took with goaltender
and yesterday another bad
silly.
Penalty. Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of contact there, but there's no reason for you to sit on the goaltender like that. Just be a little bit more aware of your surroundings. You're a professional hockey player. I don't know. That just irked me a little bit. Jesse Ylönen, I think, deserved that shot. I think they should be trying to give him more shots. We're not really in a position where anybody's caring all that much, other than the players, of course, about wins and losses, right?
Yeah.
So use some of those young players, right? We've already seen it with Slafkovsky on the top line. It's given great returns.
Takes a while, but
do some of that with a guy like Ylönen as well, right? He's there. You might as well, put him in a position to succeed instead of just burying him on the fourth line. I don't know. I've liked his game so far.
Me too.
I'll be honest. I didn't like him on the top line so much in that short one, even though they scored. I didn't love it. But overall, I like his game. Yeah,
and Trzak saying St. Louis is vibrating with rage right now. Ylönen will get 5 minutes ice time for insolence. Kay says he's crying, throwing up. Hey, I will say this. I think it's more of a roster construction issue right now that you just you're already kind of having an experiment with Slafkovsky. I mean, it's going well, but you have that second line is starting to churn along, to churn a little bit. You don't really want to mess with that. Anderson scoring. So when you try to fix something and it seems to be fixed, you leave it alone, So yeah, I'm with, and I believe it was King of the North I mentioned, and I mentioned this before the game, but so I agree. Heineman Monahan, Ylönen would be such a fun combination because they, you have a guy that's great in transition, and you have two guys that need a little more space. So it speaks to what you were talking about earlier on the power play. That would be a fun combination. But hey, there's time, and well, unless someone offers a lot for Monahan, but they'll go for now. They're already doing a few experiments. They can't push their luck too much. Okay, so we're going to jump into the third segment. So let me know what you want the players to get for Christmas. Bernardo's saying, I just want Ylönen to get a thumbs up from Marty for Christmas. And now I'm picturing that Ylönen doesn't even get a bench in the locker room. Like they bring out like a metal chair, when you used to go to your grandma's at Christmas. Listen, I'm sure we're just being impatient right now. But Martin St-Louis, despite, and I have a lot, I'm not as excited about him as perhaps Matt is, but I will say this, is that he does seem to have a bit of a grasp or a pretty good gauge to how quickly to throw these guys into, the hot water. Now, say what you will about the development last year for Slafkovsky, we can just forget that completely, but this year we saw that he got brought up at the right time, so I'm going to put a little faith into Martin St-Louis, even though it's funny because now I'm defending him. I'm the one who brought this up. I complain about Ylönen more than anyone else, but we're going to have to give him a chance to to just familiarize himself a little bit. And right now, as you mentioned, through all of this, Martin St-Louis is trying to win games. We're thinking about in 5 years, Martin St-Louis is thinking about his next contract, right? So we have to balance that. We have to balance with, what we expect and what we're going to see. Claire mentions, I'd love to see that line as well for, I'm guessing it's about the Anders, or the St. Louis, Ylönen line with Monahan and Heineman. Again, don't hold your breath, Claire. Just because it's not healthy, but also we're gonna have to be a little patient with that. Trinka says, nice jersey, Matt. What is that? What do you got there? Is it a Price jersey or a Roy jersey? Does it say Patrick? That's not a P for Patrick, right?
Behind me?
Yeah.
No, there's Price, and I also have Koivu. I don't know if you guys can even
Well, I think I see Jean Béliveau more than anything, but
I got Drouin over here. I got Subban over here. I've got Gallagher in the closet. I have I have way too many jerseys.
I don't.
Also, I don't have enough. I need to get more.
It's funny because I kind of stopped buying jerseys when I started working in hockey, but I still have, I'm looking at about 100 jerseys. I wish I could get back into my collection. As Kay mentions, this is the only, it's a nice shirt. This is the only thing I kept from the Habs, because I'll be honest, it's garbage. All their stuff, the team I used to work for doesn't produce great product. Fanatics is just, c'est de la merde there. But I did keep this, and they had the First Nations design one, which was the orange, which was just beautiful stuff. So
I don't even think I would get hired by the team because I have the logo tattooed on my chest.
Yeah.
So they'd probably think I'm a fanatic, and they'd be like, "You're not getting in the building." I'm surprised they even let me in the building when I got the media pass to go to City News, because we know they look at some of the stuff that I write. They love me.
They know who. They knew who Eyes on the Prize were. I'll tell you that much. That's when I first went up, it was Donald Beauchamp, right? And I was working at the time with Metro as well. So Metro doesn't exist anymore. But I walked up and he essentially cornered me, and he's like, "Listen, this is not going to be for Eyes on the Prize. You know that, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course not." But he's like, "If I see anything on Eyes on the Prize from what you did tonight, you're going to be in trouble." So it's a little bit better now, but it's they weren't always we spoke the truth. It's as simple as that. They didn't love that. Yeah. Okay, so what do we have? This King of the North. It's not for a player, but can I give Stéphane Robidas his flowers for Christmas? These young D-men getting rolled out like stallions. I agree. Now, if it wasn't for the Habs having 3 goalies in the top 32 for goals saved above expected, I don't know if we'd be singing the same tune. Now, what I will say is that we're seeing those glaring, like Justin Barron made that glaring mistake today, but we're seeing much fewer of those. How many odd man rushes tonight, Matt? 2, maybe 3 for the Blackhawks?
Yeah, but how many of those were Justin Barron missing?
Yeah, but there's usually
he cannot hold the line to save his life.
There's usually 15 of those, right? So they no, not just from Justin Barron. I'm talking from everyone. So
I thought you meant Justin Barron.
People from Halifax right now are like, "Come on, man!" No,
he's pretty bad at the offensive blue line, but yeah, I get what you mean.
You know what I will say to defend him, because this is the same thing as I said for PK Subban. Now, you know what? Statistically, he's actually on pace for a very similar rookie year as Subban with less minutes. And if you look at his AHL production, very similar to Subban. Now, when puck moving defensemen make mistakes, it's glaring, right? And our brain, when we're watching these games, okay, so there's 10,000 data points happening at all times, right? Our brain, especially not mine, can't record the whole thing. So what it does is there's something called availability heuristic, and what your brain does is that it like, okay, I remember that Justin Barron falling, I remember Justin Barron losing the puck here, but you don't remember the 5 or 6 times he cleared the zone with control, right? Because that's just what it's supposed to be.
Right.
So I feel like he gets a bit of a bad rap because of that. However, that's 2 games in a row where we're seeing some pretty brutal, like, you know, the Habs actually take more chances, more shots, have more scoring chances when he's on the power play than Matheson. But defensively, it's a bit of an issue. So I think we're going to have to be a little patient with Justin Barron.
Yeah, and to the point of, you know, bringing up all these young defensemen in general, I think it's honestly a good thing because they have an abundance of defensemen. I think they, you know, we everybody focuses on making trades when it comes to the goaltenders, right? Yeah. Because they've got 3 goaltenders, and that's a little bit abnormal. They need to move some defensemen.
Do they?
They need to make some space on that. I think so, because
they're not going to all turn out.
It's not pressing.
Yeah. Okay.
No, they're not all going to turn out.
I agree. It's not pressing, but it's not pressing. You can dip into the reserve. Yes.
Exactly. You can dip into the reserves a little bit and say, all right, we're going to move somebody, right? I mean, Logan Mailloux scored a really nice goal for the Rocket tonight. Actually, he scored a knuckle puck. He had a puck coming to him, rolling on its side.
Mighty Duck style.
Clapped it, top Ched. Like nothing, and with velocity too, Mighty Duck style, knuckle puck. And you know, he's a guy that he's got some work to do on his defensive game, but offensively he's a dynamo. And we've seen what Jaden Strubl's done. Jaden Struble was not a guy, I don't think I have not seen anybody that legitimately predicted that he was going to come up and play meaningful NHL minutes. And look at what he's doing. They have an abundance of defensemen, so they can afford to make some moves there. Again, it's not pressing. And I think this parade of young defensemen that have been coming up and playing some minutes in the organization has been really beneficial. Arbor Xhekaj also, he scored a really nice goal tonight for the Laval Rocket as well. You can go to Scott Matla's Twitter account if you haven't seen the highlights of that game. He's got all the highlights from the Rocket, and you'll see he scored really nice, a ripper. And this is another guy that he was playing a lot of minutes for the Habs already, and then he goes down after his injury, and he's playing very well down there. It's like they have almost an embarrassment of riches at the point right now, but they're all just young. And they're undeveloped. Yeah. And so when they come up, there's going to be mistakes, right? So myself, I feel like I almost owe an apology to Justin Barron. I've been a little bit harsh to him on Twitter at times because he's made a lot of mistakes, but I think that's part of the game right now for the Habs is letting some of those guys, those young guys, come up, make some of those mistakes, and figure out, you know, what can they do, what can't they do, and then eventually at some point, that's where Kent Hughes is going to be able to pull the trigger, and maybe make a deal involving some defensemen. And I think it'll be for the betterment of the rebuild because they've got so many, and we know everybody's excited about Lane Hudson. At some point, he's going to come up and he's going to do wonderful.
No, he's going to sign this summer. I guarantee it.
Yeah. I would be surprised if he plays.
No, I guarantee it. 100%. Yeah. I'm losing power here. Damn it! I forgot to plug my. Okay, you keep talking. I'm gonna go get my power. Okay. This is really awkward. Matt, keep talking for about 30 seconds. I gotta plug in my computer.
No worries. I'm taking over the show. So, the parade of young defensemen is honestly, it's a great thing for the organization. You get to try out as many people as possible, find out what they can do, and then you can make a trade after the fact. Again, I already mentioned earlier the possibility of trading David Savard, which at the beginning of the season, like in the training camp, it would have seemed crazy to send a guy like David Savard anywhere because what are you going to do on defense at that point? You would have gone, well, we got a gigantic hole that we just created by trading our most veteran defender who has Stanley Cup experience and everything. And now, when we get to this point, now that he's returned from injury, it seems logical to trade David Savard, where in the preseason, it was like, we can't possibly get rid of him because the team is going to be kneecapped to the point of absolute unwatchability. And now we've seen what some of the young defensemen do, and it's like, well, we could do without him, and we could afford to trade a guy like that. So I think, again, long roundabout way to re-answer the question. It's a fantastic thing for the organization to see this many young defensemen playing minutes this season, and I look forward to more. Honestly, I'd like to see them give Logan Mailloux a shot at some
Yeah.
point. I'd like to see him play some NHL minutes just to see what he can do. You know, we've seen him in Laval. I want to see him up there, and I'd say the same thing for the forwards. I've been screaming about this all year. Joshua Roy in the NHL at some point. That's my Christmas. You guys, you asked.
He'll be here after
the Habs for Christmas. Yeah. That's what I want for Christmas.
He'll be here after the deadline.
I want to see.
Like that's the way I look at it.
You're probably right.
Tanner Pearson, if he's healthy, is going to be gone. Then you have, by the way, Kay's heading out. I think I saw it earlier before I had to run out and professionally go get my power. You know what? I did that once while I was doing a live with, it was a Stanley Cup thing for like a private with, who was it? Not Guy Lafleur, but there was like a bunch of Habs legends. And right through the whole thing, I was like, God damn it, I have to go leave. So I like snuck under and I got my power. Clearly, I learned my lesson. Kay's leaving, so we say bye to Kay. I'm with you on that, on the whole, you know, you're getting some depth and you can use it. But the only thing I'd like to say is we got to be careful with saying the Habs are set defensively. Because do you remember, and we were both voting on the top 25, under 25, there was Magnus Nygren, there was Darren Dietz, there was Jared Tenorti,
Dalton Thrower.
There was Dalton Thrower. There was Matt Ellis. There was Greg Patterin. There was Nathan Beaulieu. And the Habs were set forever. You know, so again, I don't want to...
I didn't say set. I said they have seemingly an embarrassment of riches.
That is true. And it's a good position to have them at. And especially, Matt, like, right-handed defenseman, always worth more. Even if Logan Mailloux doesn't make it this year, you can probably get a good value for him on the trade market. Same thing with with Eggstrom, or even we saw William Trudeau, which I was just praising him to the high heavens to start the year, and he had a rough start. Tonight looked very good. So yeah, and Sean Farrell came back from injury, boom, scored, got an assist. You know, so we're seeing a little bit better in Laval. Actually, there's King of the North is mentioning Chris Weidman. Do you know what? Go to the NHLPA website. Chris Weidman right now is opening a chain of salons with his wife. So they started a business during the pandemic, and now they're just expanding. So good for him, man. He's living the good life. And I'll tell you right now, nicest guy you'll ever meet in your entire life. Like when he says he's just happy to be here, he's absolutely not lying. Like he would be paying to play hockey if he had to. So Chris Weidman is just one of those genuinely great guys. Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up shortly. Again, I'm going to beg everyone to throw a like. We've been running for about an hour now, so that's why. You know what? I thought we could get through with my power, but clearly, much like the Habs power play this year, ineffective. I will say this before we go on. And first of all, I want to thank Matt. So I'm going to go grab his Twitter account real quick and put it in the chat. But it's not just Matt that I want to thank. I want to thank all our amazing guests that have joined us this year. And we're really lucky that we have such a huge group of people that we can pick from. Obviously, you know, they're all very important. But I was about to link the Zoom chat that we're on, Matt. I was about to invite absolutely everyone to join us, but we would be nothing without everyone that's in the chat every night. Like I know I go on and on about this, but we're just really so lucky to be here and to have everyone here. So Ian, Trinka, King of the North, Kay, Trizak, all our good friends. You know, I mentioned them at the start of the show. I don't want to leave everyone out. Frédéric Wallet's always here. Melissa, always here as well. We really, really, really appreciate. Bernardo has been here all, and he's keeping me honest about Anderson, so I like that. I really just appreciate everyone. Honestly, it means so much to us because we're not always having our best shows. So, you know, you're here no matter what. And obviously, Claire, you know, she missed a few, but I'm gonna forgive her for that one. So we'll be back on the 28th. So what's happening is I'm going to head down to Ontario for a little while. I'm going to go visit my godson. And because he called me the other day, I always go down to Ontario to visit some family and stuff. And he called me and he was just crying. And he said, hey, like, you know, I had just been there a month before. And he said, I want you to come play Twitch with me. So, or not Twitch, what do you call it? Switch, the Nintendo Switch. So I melted. I don't know how you have 3 kids, right, Matt?
Yeah, and each one of them has the Nintendo Switch.
Except
for the youngest.
How do you do anything when they start crying? Like I'm like, here, like I'm giving him money and like, here, you want some treats? Like I how do you deal with that, man?
Well, it depends why they're crying, right? If there's blood, then I've got things that I need to do. If there's no blood, then it's you got to convince them that they're overreacting.
Yeah,
And
well, when they
sometimes
drop
it works, sometimes it doesn't.
when they dropped me off at the train station, it was his mom, and I just like I said bye, and he was crying, and I'm like, no, you'll be tough, buddy, you'll be tough. I walked in the train station, and just like, I started pouring. So, anyways, I'm happy I'm going to get to go see Felix, my awesome godson. Mathieu Barrette mentions enjoy the holidays. Hey, yeah, I want to extend that to everyone. A Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone that do not celebrate Christmas. Obviously, as per usual, we love everyone here, and we're really, really lucky to have you. So, Andrew's going to take the 28th. I'm going to convince him to take the 30th as well. He doesn't know it yet. Then I'll be back on New Year's Eve. So we're going to do our usual. Last year we did just me and everyone for New Year's Eve. We're going to do that again. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to keep it quick because I know some of you have social lives. I don't. But I'll see you all again. It should be the 30th. I'm going to say the 31st. Again, Andrew doesn't know, but I'm going to beg him to take over my shift so I can go play Nintendo Switch with my godson. And you know what? I think that's the right decision. What do you think, Matt?
It's a good call. You only get one chance with kids being young. I just took my my youngest son to California recently. Took him to Legoland.
Oh.
I got no reason to go to Legoland, but he had an absolutely
you loved it.
time.
You loved it.
Yeah, well, I loved it because he loved it, and seeing him enjoy it that much was
amazing.
Incredibly valuable to me. So I'd say the same thing for you playing Nintendo Switch with your godson. Maybe you don't feel like playing Nintendo Switch, but sometimes you can play Nintendo Switch with him, and maybe it makes your life, your moment
That's what it is.
That much better just to be with him and to have that time. So
I always say it's for him. I'll be honest, it's good for me as well, right? so absolutely. Except for he dominated me once at Mario Kart. Now I won't get over that. So yeah. Bernardo says Yulinen should try the tactic with Martin Saint Louis. Call him up, start crying, say he wants to play Nintendo Switch with him. It might work. All right. Thank you.
Actually, I live, apparently, Martin Saint Louis, when he played for the St. John Flames, lived in my house that I live in right now.
Does your garage door have puck marks all over it, or?
There's a couple of dents in it, but I don't know. I was told by somebody else who lives here. They said
really?
that's the house that he lived in when he played for the St. John Flames.
Not bad.
And I'm like, cool. So now I'm going with it. I don't know if it's true.
You mean when the Calgary Flames decided to waive one of the best players of all time in the NHL? Yeah, that was
yeah, and they made one of the biggest mistakes known to hockey.
Boom, boom, boom. All right, thank you so much, everyone. We're gonna see you all soon. We're gonna see Mathieu, Frédéric, Claire, Trinka, and everyone else, Trezakin, King of the North, NK, and all our favorite people soon. Make sure to like, share the chat. If you like what you see, you can talk about it on social media. And if not, that's fine too. I want to wish everyone a very, very, very Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. We're going to see you again, like I told you. Andrew doesn't know it yet, but he's going to take over the 30th game for me as well. So I will see you on New Year's Eve. And in the meantime, we're going to end it the same way we always end it. Bye, Claire. Bye.
Game!